What's up, Game Devs? T-Chan here, and welcome to episode 3 of Game Dev Loadout, where I chat with today's most experienced game developers 7 days a week, where we learn about their background, the challenges they face, and the tools they use to reach success. And today's featured guest is Richard Millington. Richard, it is a go time. Are you ready?
Yes, I am. Hey.
Yes, he is the founder of Fever Bee, author of Buzzing Communities, and a frequent speaker at online community events around the world. Over the past 13 years, he has helped develop over 150 successful communities, including those for Google, Amazon, Oracle, and many more. And now, Game Devs, he has taken the time to chat with us on how we can build a successful community for our company. So go ahead, Richard, give us a bit about your personal life and how you got started in this career.
Yeah, sure. It's really interesting. When I first began doing online communities, it's in the video gaming space. So when I was around 15 years old, I got into the Counter-Strike game a lot and began building online communities in that sector. And what happened is, and I think it's even happening today, is that the communities in the video gaming space are they were so far advanced of anything else. And it quickly became apparent that so many other organizations were trying to build these kinds of communities as well. So I built a business based upon that. We worked with some amazing companies over the last couple of years. But what we do specifically, and I think this is probably what might make us unique within the field, is that we don't focus so much upon the technology behind a successful community. I mean, it's important to get that right, but it's only one small part of the entire process that we're talking about. What we focus upon is the psychology and the data. The psychology to tell us, how do members think? How do they feel? What do we need to change about the work that we're doing to get people engaged and participating and sharing great ideas and playing the game as long as possible, as much as possible, whatever our goal will be. And then we look at the data to tell us, what are people doing? What is going to work? What's not working? And I think at the moment there seems to be a massive gap between the people that are doing communities but doing it in a very haphazard way and the professionals that seem to be doing an incredible job, even in the video gaming space and many other sectors as well, and an incredible job getting these communities up and running and making them as successful as they can possibly be.
And when you say, like you said, the video game community was a bit advanced, what do you mean by that?
Sure. So this is around, turn of the century, 2000 to 2001. The video gaming scene at the time, they had online communities, they had chat rooms, they had forums, they had all this stuff where if you and I played the very same game, we could talk about it with each other. But there wasn't really a comparative for a lot of brands at the time. So all social media has come afterwards and it's changed that entirely. But if I, loved the phone I was using and you loved the phone you're using, there weren't really many places online where we could talk about it in the same capacity. So video gaming communities at the time were so far advanced. They were hosting events around the world. They had webinars. They had players that were doing video interviews, all this kind of stuff that is quite common in many types of communities, online communities today, but was entirely different at that time. It didn't even exist back in those days.
Interesting. Okay. Now, if people had to teach themselves on how to build a great community, what would you suggest they use?
Well, I think the absolute best thing is that they get experience doing it, that they go out there and they start to build a community for themselves. Or if they can't do that, at least really participate in one. Try to become a very respected member in one of the existing communities, because this will tell you so much about what motivates people to engage and participate. It will teach you to think in a really deep way about what's going to motivate you to be engaged and actively participating. If you want to be building a community, then definitely go out there, try and create one around a topic you love, your local town perhaps. You can do that on Nextdoor. You can do Facebook groups. You can do a subreddit, whatever works for you. There's so many tools that are out there today that will let you do that. The other thing I would say is try and spend a lot of time reading about the things that you might not know. Our website, feverbee.com, has around 2,000 articles that have been posted there over the years that might help. There's a couple of great books out there as well. So there's lots of advice that's out there. It's very common for people doing this for the first time, managing a community for the very first time, to think that they're the first person to ever come across this challenge or this issue. And it's really the case. I mean, most of the challenges that have been faced have been overcome by people just like you. You just need to read around a bit and figure out how they overcame it.
Ooh, and what are common mistakes, even at a pro level, that people sometimes make when building a community?
Yeah, this is a good question. So there's a couple of things. One is not to have someone that's responsible for managing the community. So it's a case of if you build it, they will come. But the sad truth is they might not. And it's very common for them not to come. And even if they do come, if you don't have someone that's managing it, you run into a whole host of issues, legal liabilities that could emerge from the forum. You're missing out on great ideas, great advice that's being shared. You're not capturing the great information that's being shared in the community. And there's no one that's proactively developing it. If you look at what Riot Games do, if you look at what I forgot the name, but whichever company was behind the EVE Online game, CCP, I think. If you look at what they do, building their communities and customer councils and all this kind of really amazing stuff, there's huge potential in there. So one of them is they simply don't have someone that's responsible for managing that community. Another one is that they don't really think about what the journey looks like to become a member. So how does someone first hear about the community? What does that message look like? What is their next interaction? What are they first invited to do? How are they onboarded? The same way you'd onboard someone into a brand new game, perhaps. How does that work within the community as well? Do they know what's been discussed before? Do they know what topics they should talk about and perhaps what they might not want to talk about? One of the things that comes up time and time again with most of the clients that we've had is someone will join a community and then they won't participate. When we interview these people, it's usually the same answer, which is they didn't know what they could share. They didn't feel like that they were an expert, or they were just scared. They were just scared of saying something dumb, saying something that is being said before, getting a negative backlash from the community. And once you know these things, it's terrific because then you can proactively figure out a way to overcome them. You can tell people that are new that we don't need your expertise, we need your questions. We need to know what it's like to be you. We need to know what it's like to experience this game for the very first time. What questions you have, what challenges you have, what you can share from your perspective. So once you know these things, it's really easy to overcome them. Another final one I'll throw in there is spending far too much on the technology platform itself. There are so many great tools around today that will help you build a community. Forum-based platforms, groups, subreddits, Twitch. I mean, there's so many tools that are out there today. And it's not a good idea if you're just launching your community off the ground right now to spend huge amounts of money on the technology. Invest more in the technology as the community begins to grow. Because what happens very often is that you have to test a few different ideas out for the community. What is the best way of positioning it? Who is it going to be for? What's it going to be about? What's going to happen within that community? And it's only once you've got that right, once you know you have a community that's going to stick, that you want to spend a lot of money investing and growing and making sure that you have the best community that you can possibly have.
Oh, love that. So do your best to keep the community engaged, ask questions, figure out, what they want, and then invest once the community gets bigger.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Overall, what are your key principles for building a community, specifically for the video game world?
So what we tell our clients in the video gaming space at the moment is that the community and the game are becoming ever more integrated than what they ever were. So one of our clients has a mobile game, and they're figuring out how, if you share advice in the community, how you conquered this level, how you achieve this award, then you get more gems that you can spend within the game itself. So the concept is pretty simple, but we're seeing more and more that in the video gaming world, the community and the game are becoming as one, where people will start to value, or they already do, value the community as much as they do the game itself. So if you can develop the successful community, the game becomes more valuable as well because you have people that you can play the game with. So what we do is spend a lot of time looking at how we can try and merge these two things as much as possible. So we have another client that lets you record videos of how you complete different levels within the game. But if you can share that, you can develop a repository for that where you can get advice and feedback. People can ask you more questions. It helps other players that are going to come through that as well. You can have pop-up notifications where if people are stuck on a particular issue, they can ask within the community. They can get help from other members. You can design ways that people can go on quests or missions together as seamlessly as they possibly can. So you've got to think about how, when you're designing a game today, and I'm not a game developer at all, so please feel free to point out how wrong parts of this might be. But I would say it's all about figuring out how you can make the community in the game as one. as close together as they can possibly be. So within the game, without even leaving the game, how can I chat to other players right now, even if it's relatively a single player game? How can I go ahead and do that? How can I exchange things with the other players that play in the game? How can I have a talk about the current issue I'm having within the game? And how can I just chill out and relax? Is there an easy way to go from the game to the community? Is there one click that's going to take me to a relevant discussion that's taking place right now? And what you also find is that it's possible to blend these things really well. So as I progress in the game, I might have higher levels, and those higher levels should give me access to more and different parts of the community as well. There might be things we can work on outside of the game together. People might bring their avatars from the forum into the community. Top members of the game might be invited to form that EVE Online style council of members. And the other thing we're seeing a lot is that gamers love to talk to people that are developing the game. As crazy as that sounds, very often, gamers love to talk to people that are developing the games. I remember going to the World Cyber Games in South Korea, and the game developers are like rock stars. I mean, it's incredible. Giving them FaceTime and access to you as well, even just to listen to them, to hear them out, to get an understanding what their recommendations are, really helps them feel a stronger part of that community where they'll advocate more upon you. And the other thing I would add is think about how they can easily share things within the game. Videos, images, things like that. How can they easily share that in the community that other people can find? Because ultimately, you want the game to make them look good to their friends. So you want to make it as easy as possible to share the game, to advocate on behalf of the game and their achievements within the game. That's a huge, huge win. So that's the angle that makes it very unique in the video game sector, I believe.
Yeah, and that makes sense because when you build a community around a game, people, they love to talk about their game and playing. They just love talking about it.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever they're experiencing, what are the thoughts on it, the feedback, they just love talking about it. So building that community absolutely makes sense. Now, let's take this on a more personal level. And I'm pretty sure you had some bad moments. What was the worst moment of your career? That one moment that is still vivid in your mind? Be very detailed and give us that story.
The worst moment of my career. I'm trying to think what I can and can't say here. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I can't say on behalf of clients and all that. And some of the work we're doing with Facebook at the moment, I can't talk about. So what I would say is that the one that stands out most, and it wasn't the worst moment of my career, but it's the one I think is most relevant here, was when we were building a community years ago for people that play golf. The problem with that is that I've never really played golf, not anything more than miniature golf, crazy golf, or whatever you call it in the USA. It quickly became apparent when we launched that community that it was wrong. The concept was wrong. We weren't really landing. There's nothing unique about the community. There's nothing. I mean, the community just wasn't taken off because it just felt fake. It all came from me because I didn't really know much about golf. What I would say, if you want to build a community, if you want the kind of insights and ideas and to make this truly a success, more than any other tip I think I can give here, is to really spend time with your audience. I mean, I know that game developers do this a lot from the perspective of the game, perhaps. They bring people in, do focus groups and these things. But really sit with them, watch how they play the game, watch how they explore the community. So when we're watching someone play one of the games for one of our clients, what we'll find is that there'll be points where they get stuck. And there's two ways to deal with that. One, you can make the game easier for them to play. You can tweak it, you can change it. The other way, and the much cheaper way of doing this, is to have a simple prompt. This is a point where you go to ask the community for help. This is a point where you look up how other people have solved this situation. And then you feel smarter because you learned a new skill. It wasn't made easier for you. You feel smarter as a result. But you can only get that kind of expertise and advice from actually doing the ethnographic research that we're talking about here, which is going really deep into the community, spending time with them. I mean, literally in the same room with members of your audience that are playing the game or are most likely to play the game, and figure out exactly what's going on. And then you can design it all around what they want. And this happens time and time again with so many of our clients. And even outside of the video gaming space, I remember a few years ago, we were struggling to build a community for teachers at a specific place in the USA. And every time these teachers who do really amazing work, they kept telling us, I don't have time, I don't have time, I don't have time. But then we changed the concept of that community to a place where you can save time, for a place for teachers to share their time-saving tips. And suddenly they found the time to participate. It's aligned with what the content, and it sounds so obvious in hindsight, but beforehand, it's really hard to see those things. But it's only by really going out and spending time with members of the community that you get these insights and this expertise and this understanding that you can't get from anywhere else. And the one thing I took away from that golf community was you can't top down decide what the community is going to be like and how it should be. This has to be a bottom up thing here. You have to spend time with members of your audience. You have to get to know them and understand what their hopes are, what their challenges are, what their frustrations on a day-to-day level that they face with the game that you're developing, and then embed that as much as possible within the game, because that, I think, is truly the massive win.
Yeah, it's actually a really simple concept because all you have to do is just be a part of the community, learn about the community, and then, yeah, you can make your product around that community and solve their problems or create a product that they like. So all you have to do is just be a part of the community, be engaged with them, and figure out what exactly interests them.
Yeah, and it's amazing how powerful that can be. I mean, even showing videos, for example, when we were doing a video gaming community around 15 years ago or whenever it was, we noticed that people were beginning to share a lot of videos of themselves playing the game. But this was a nightmare to do. To record stuff in the console to edit was really difficult. But when you can simplify that, as I think Twitch have done now, these insights that were available to us then, we just didn't pick up on them. But when you can simplify how that is done, that's a huge win. So it's worth spending as much time as possible with your audience.
Oh, what is the best investment you've made for yourself? And it could be investment of money, time, or energy. And how did you decide to make that investment?
Wow, your questions are tough. Best investment I made for myself. I think the best investment for most people, assuming that they're in a good place emotionally and mentally, the best investment for most people is in training themselves to be better at what they do, or learning a new skill that adds more value to what they do. Attending events is good, but taking specific training courses as well helps. We spend a lot of time learning these social psychology behind community participation. Just finished a training course on doing data analysis myself. And that's a new skill we can offer to clients. We spend a lot of time doing public speaking as well, or I've invested in doing public speaking training courses as well. So I think investing in yourself with training courses, learning how to bring new skills and abilities to what you do makes you more valuable to your business. So I'm a huge fan of doing that. The second one, if I can go here, would be to build your network up as much as possible. Ultimately, so much of our lives and our careers are dictated by the people that we know. And there's so much opportunity to build a stronger network, a stronger community, I might add, around either what you do or reaching out to people that do similar roles, but in different companies, people that that might be higher up the ladder, asking them for advice, taking them out for lunch, coffee, whatever that is going to be. But figuring out how to build that network is going to be such a valuable thing for you that will pay off over the long term.
Yes, invest in yourself to keep learning and network. Definitely network. Now, what is the one thing you're most excited about today in the game industry?
I think I'm really interested by the augmented reality. I think I find that quite fascinating. I think Pokemon Go, even though now it's kind of died down a bit, I think the idea of it was so exciting, so fascinating, and so interesting in the implications of, what happens to the space outside your home. I thought the community implications of it were really interesting. I think the idea of designing games around the cities that you live in is just fascinating. I really think that's an incredible opportunity there. But I see most of these things through like a community lens. So I'm interested in the community implications of them. So if I can interact with other people in my own city, play games with them in their city, I think there's a huge opportunity there, and I'm really excited about it as well. That's why it's so exciting to go to the GDC event for the first time this year.
Awesome. Don't forget Game Devs. You can check out GameDevLoadout.com for all the show notes and links. You can also subscribe to my email list to get tips and updates. And now we have reached a crunch time, the phase that Game Devs dread, but we are here to overcome it. Basically, Richard, I will ask you quick questions, and you'll be giving us a ton of valuable information in return. Are you ready to crush it and release the show?
I'll do my best.
What's a personal habit that contributes to your success?
I think there's a discipline in doing the most important thing you have to get done as the very first thing of the day. I think that's the one thing that's helped me through so many things, just making sure whatever's going to have the biggest long-term impact upon my career, that's what I do the first thing of every single day.
Oh yeah, priorities right there. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
It came from a guy named Seth Godin, who I did a internship with back in years and years ago. It was the idea of always starting small, testing whatever it is, your game, your community, your content, whatever it is, on 10 people first, and getting their reactions to it before you expand beyond that. If they're not excited, they're not really thrilled to be a part of it, then you have to redevelop it until they are. That's being such a useful piece of advice for me.
How has a failure set you up for later success?
Well, I'd go back to the golf one here. I think failing so comprehensively with a golfing community then has really helped me understand how important it is to actually meet your community, spend time with them and interview them and really get to know who they are and what they need.
Now, sharing any resource we game devs should use in order to build an effective community.
I think that my book might help some people that are out there, the Buzzing Communities book that's on Amazon now. And I think that the feverbee.com site would also be really useful. There's a lot of articles and advice on there that could be helpful to a lot of people in the community space. The other book that I do strongly recommend is one called Building Successful Online Communities by Bob Kraut and Paul Resnick, I think. It came out around the same time as mine, and it's a terrific book. Like I strongly recommend it. It's a very data-driven book. I think it's terrific.
Awesome. I would definitely link that up. And now I want to reinforce this. So this next question is a bit of a doozy. So take your time if you need to. Imagine you woke up the next morning in a brand new world and you knew no one. You still have all the experience and knowledge you currently have today. Your food and shelter is taken care of and you have a laptop. What would you do step by step on the path to building your community from scratch?
I love the question. So this could be a huge answer, but I'll try and tackle it at the low level. One is to make sure I have relationships with 50 people or so, to reach out to people on Facebook, on Twitter, people that are interested in the same topic, the same game, and start to get to know them, build those relationships up. Once I had around 50 to maybe 100 of them, to invite them to join a Facebook group, subreddit, whatever that platform is going to be. And start posting discussions there, start posting questions about the game, asking them what they want to see, and soliciting their response as well. And then as that grows, developing webinars around that, whatever topic might make sense to them. I may be setting a goal for them as well, something that they can work towards, something that they can take excitement at achieving in their lives. So I think that would be the simple answer. The more complicated one would take a long time to explain.
We have reached the end. Go ahead and give a parting piece of guidance in how we can connect with you, and then we'll say goodbye.
Sure, you can reach me, Richard, at feverbee.com, or at Rich Millington on Twitter, I think would be really useful. Or just go to www.feverbee.com and you can get a lot of other advice that might help.
And what's a parting piece of guidance?
Parting piece of guidance, honestly, start small, go out to your community, really understand who they are and what they want, and build based upon that. Don't do this removed from the process itself. Really go out there, because that's how you're going to build a community that your members actually want to participate in. It's really going to help you so much.
Definitely, game devs, go out there, build a community for your game, get them engaged. Richard, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us, and for that, we are truly grateful. We look forward to your future work, and until then, we'll catch you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you, game devs, for listening, and remember that knowledge is only potential power. Execution is the game. So equip yourself with the best loadout and take action today. Go check out GameDevLoadout.com for all the resources. And if this podcast inspired you, I would greatly appreciate it if you subscribe and leave a review. Until then, join me on the next episode. T-Chan out.